Very good afternoon to everybody. Good afternoon, Neeta, Jyot, Sahi, Narinder. A very good afternoon to everybody. Good afternoon, ma'am. Well, today's lecture is on joint injuries. Good afternoon, Michael. How are you? Dinesh is not there. So today's lecture is on injuries, basically part two of your joints. In the last chapter, we have studied different types of joints and mechanics about which is useful for our subject. So now we'll be dealing with the injuries in the sports basically, and very common injuries which are seen widely and most of the times only those injuries will be covered because larger percentage in these injuries are of these only. Okay, so before going further, one thing you keep in mind that joint injuries occur more in those joints which allow maximum movements. The joints which don't allow much of the movement, जैसे skull के अंदर हमारा है, that don't allow movement at all, so their chances of injuries are very less. In joints, I am talking about joints. Joint injuries are always more in number in those joints which allow you good amount of movements, like synovial joints, joints in your knee, your shoulder joint, your ankle joint. These three are the ones which have maximum number of cases in the sports, because these three joints allow most of the movements which you make in each sport, whether you're running, jumping, throwing something. Shoulder is involved in running, your whole muscle chain of from your hip, then knee and ankle is involved. So all these joints which are very common in sports, and they allow good amount of movement in all the three planes. So these are more prone to injuries. So good afternoon, Dinesh. Yeah. So we'll be dealing with all these important injuries, and also I'll let you know some workouts which will strengthen you. And one thing more, I'm repeating regarding injuries in biomechanics. If you follow correct technique, then you can prevent that injury. On the other hand, there are some injuries which are due to contact sports, means you are facing opponent and you are in contact with him in the game, and due to push or pull or something like that, then injury can also happen. In that case, your biomechanics is not wrong, but it is the case of push or pull. So in that case, you can also get injury. But in those cases, if you are strong enough from inside, then to some extent you can prevent that to some extent, but you have to face it. And if the impact is so high, then you can't do anything. So always keep this in mind. The biomechanics helps you to prevent injuries due to technique, and I'll let you know right now that most of the injuries are due to wrong technique, most of them. So now dealing with the joint injuries one by one. So the first slide tell you about brief introduction. What is injury? What injury involves in the cases of joints, basically. So it is basically damage of your cartilages in the joints, or due to some problem in the muscles, or that stabilize your joints. All these things, damage to cartilage, damage to tendon, damage to your muscles which strengthen your joint, can lead to joint problems which include even dislocation of the bones. So this is the first brief summary of introduction of your what actually happens in the joint injury. In the joint injuries, either your cartilage get damaged, either your tendons get some problem, either your ligaments get some problem, or some strengthening muscles have some tear or something. That will all lead to problem in your joint, and in the serious stages it can even lead to dislocation of the bones. So this is all about joint injuries. Typical joint injuries occur in those joints which allow full range of movement, like knees, ankles, wrists, shoulders, and to some extent elbows. So, what are the symptoms? How can you? The common symptoms in all these joint injuries are like you will have swelling, you will have inflammation, you have a lot of pain depending on the extent of injury, and some bruising, redness will be there. And I will differentiate between the sprain and the strain, because the bruising, basically the bruises which you see on your body parts due to injury, are only in the case of sprains most of the time. So I'll discuss that, what is the difference between sprain and the strain injury in joints. And limitation of the range of motion always happen, because if your joints are damaged, you cannot make full movements of your joints. Your movements, extension, flexion will get hampered. So joint injuries often occur as a result of bicycle wrecks, also due to falling, also happens due to contact sports, some push or pull is there, then you can have it. And finally, due to wrong biomechanical techniques, you are not doing things in a proper way, that can also lead to joint injuries. Okay, so these are some of the introduction part of joint injuries which can happen in the games. So this is just a brief introduction. Now I'll differentiate between this sprain and strain injury in your joints. So one of the two happens during joint injury. Either sprain will be there or strain will be there most of the times. So what is the difference? A joint sprain involves overstretching or tearing of your ligaments. So ligaments are what? Ligaments are the bands of tissues which will connect your bones basically. So if you have some problem in these ligaments, then you will the injury which you will have is known as joint sprain. On the other hand, if you have some problem in your tendons or muscles, like tendons are the tissues which actually connect your muscle to the bone, and these are the elastic ones I have told you in the strain energies chapter, and these are the one which can help you to use your SSC, stretch shortening cycle, that is very important biomechanically. So if there is injury in the tendons, then you will have joint strain. Symptoms are almost similar in both the cases. You will have pain, you will have swelling, you will have lack of flexibility, lack of range of motion. But the key difference by which you can actually differentiate is that bruising happens only in the case of sprain most of the times. So this is the one of the way you can differentiate between the two. Otherwise, symptoms are almost similar. So this is the difference between sprain and the strain. Now coming to the first type of injury, first joint I'll cover is of knee joint. Knee joint injuries. So knee joint is the largest joint in your body, and it can allow a lot of movements in each and every sport. Running, jumping, knees is involved. Knee joint is involved, and it is complex and susceptible to many types of injuries, especially in athletes, because of rapid twisting, rapid change of direction, rapid stopping, then again moving. So these kind of things make um, a problem for the knee joint, and it is prone to these kind injuries due to these activities. Knee can receive fractures, sprains, tears, dislocations. So this could also be due to improper technique. For example, in running, if you put your heel strike, well, if you strike the ground with your heels, this is a wrong, biomechanically wrong movement during running. That will impact your knees. So definitely you will have some kind of problem in the knee. Knee injury will happen. Secondly, when you do wrong jumping, your landing is not soft. When you do jump and then you land, and if your landing is not soft, soft means it is not biomechanically correct way, you are not bending properly, you are not using stretch shortening cycle properly, then also it will impact your knees. So these kind of situations makes your knees very sensitive to the injuries. So, and third one is sometimes some gears are there you should always wear. If you don't wear, you will also get knee injuries. Okay, now coming to the first type of knee injury, which is commonly we observe in the sports, that is knee meniscus tear. So what is this meniscus? Meniscus is basically C-shaped pieces of cartilage, and these help basically help knees to bear weight, body weight, balance the body weight, and these are basically cushioning uh, in your muscles. So any tear you can see on the right hand side, there is a small tear on the right hand side, there is a very large tear. So these tears can lead to this kind of injury, which is known as knee meniscus tear. And most of the time is it due to rapid twist or rotation movement in your knee. For example, in the football, you make a lot of rotations in at your knee joint. So rapid rotation sometimes leads to this kind of tear in your meniscus, and that will lead to a lot of pain, and it can even block your knee motion proper. You have trouble in moving or running. Now, if it is of minor types, there is slight tear which can get healed after some icing or something within a day, 3 or 4 days. But if it is a lot big tear in your meniscus, then that will be corrected by your surgery only, and that will require time because surgery needs time to for healing and all that. So this is the first type of knee injury which we get in the case of knee joints. Second one is acute patellar injuries. Patella is the bone which is there in the kneecap. You can say an injury to the patellar bone or kneecap is called acute patellar injury. So this is due to basically impact on your knee. You get you sometimes during running you fall on your knees. You get this kind of injury, or some push or pull by other opponent there, or some ball hits in the cricket. If some ball cricket ball hits your knee cap, so these kind of things when happen, then you will have chances of this kind of injury, and it could lead to knee dislocation. It can lead to fracture, patellar fracture, and avulsion fracture is also there. This happens due to excessive pulling of your joint from inside by the muscles, quadriceps. If you do excessive quadricep pulling, excessive tension in quadriceps, that can lead to this kind of fracture which is known as avulsion fracture in the patella. And the last type is chondromalacia patella. This is due to recent impact or pressure which causes inflammation in your patellar bone. So these are the main types of patellar injuries which we have in the sports, and usually it is due to impact on your knees, direct impact. Now third type is the most common type of knee injury, which is you also heard that name, that is ACL. This is basically anterior cruciate ligament ACL injury. It is very common, and it is 80% of the knee injuries are of this kind ACL are due to wrong technique, wrong biomechanic technique, wrong running posture, wrong walking posture. So that leads to this kind of injury, and it is basically a tear in the ligament, and the ligament name is anterior cruciate ligament, and it is one of the major ligament which holds your knees, and it is made of tough fibrous material. Function main function is to control your knee motion. Matlab, it will limit your motion so that bone cracks or joint problems doesn't occur in the normal situations. But if you do it in a wrong way, if you apply a lot of stress on knees, then this can get teared and you will have this ACL tear injury. And it is most common injury, and it is often happens due to sudden stops and sudden again jumping, bad landing. So all these games which are affected, like soccer, basketball, football, so all the games which require hockey, rapid movements and rapid change of movements, rapid running, so all these injuries you in games will have this kind of knee injury, ACL injury. And next slide has shown you that it is 80% of sports related ACL tears are non-contact injuries, means these are due to wrong technique. And one thing have been noted that it is more common in females. If you have attended the lecture of that national program is happening for the coaches, there also they have told that ACL injury is more common in female athletes. So what I know from my research, I came to this conclusion that females are less muscular and they have heavy pelvis. So that is one of the reason biomechanically, because due to weight they apply more stress on the knee. So that is one of the reason, but it is not certain. So these are some of the justification they have given that why females are more. But the fact is, female athletes are at higher risk of ACL injury if they play games like soccer, football, hockey. So they are more common in that. And it symptoms are knee swelling, lot of pain, and when it happens, you hear a sound like pop. popping sound is there. You will hear, the player or the athlete will hear during the time of injury, a popping sound, and very loud sound, so he can feel that something happened, bad happened in the knee. And surgery is essential if you require to return to play in, if it is ACL. Surgery is there, and it takes a lot of time, 6 months, 7 months, even 9, 10 months, depending on the way it is there. So this is the ACL injury. Now, next slide will tell you how you can prevent these knee joint injuries by using proper biomechanics, by strengthening your muscles so that you can prevent them. So the first one is proper warm up should be there always. When you are doing training, do the proper warm up. When you are starting playing, do the proper warm up. Proper warm up is very basic thing you should do always. Now, second is bend your knees when landing. This is the technique of landing basically. Whenever you land during jumping, always bend your knees properly. As the knees bend using landing, make sure they travel in a straight path. Bending जब कर रहे हैं ऐसे ना हो कि वो मुड़ जाए या आपस में knee knock हो जाए. That should be not. It should be very straight and proper bending should be there. Do not let the knees come closer. So I'll share the video just right now. Will make this point clear. Land softly on the balls. The first point is bend your knees properly. That is a proper technique. Second is land on your ball of your foot. Don't use heels for the ground strike. ये रनिंग में भी काम आता है, jumping में भी काम आता है. If you follow these two things, your landing will improve eventually. Keep your knees and hips aligned, and your upper body part should be upright. Don't bend too far or forward. दोनों में प्रॉब्लम है. If you bend your upper body part, your trunk ज़्यादा forward करेंगे, that is also will create problem. And if it is bent too far, that is also problem. It should be properly aligned, straight. And then improve agility. A strong core, hips. मतलब if your glutes are strengthened even, good strength in the glutes will also help you to get good landing, good proper technique to avoid stress on your knees. Strengthening these muscles will help you to prevent ACL injury. Okay. Now I'll show you the some workouts which will help you. So these are the workouts which you will see, which will definitely help you to strengthen your glute muscles, and this kind of workouts will improve your SSC abilities, and these kind of exercise should be done to avoid your knee injuries, to have proper technique. See how the bending is happening, perfect bending, perfect landing. So these kind of things they do, and in all of these cases they are utilizing their SSC, stress shortening cycle. So this is the biomechanics which you can do to improve your techniques so that you can prevent knee injuries. See the motion, see the bending movements, see the hip alignment, see the everything you notice, and try to follow this so that you can prevent at least the injuries due to technique. So now coming to the second common joint which gets injured is your shoulder joint. Shoulder joint is also the second one which allows a lot of movements, throwing, during it is so in most of the cases shoulder joint also get affected, and it is also the most mobile joint as it is ball and socket joint. I have already told you. So taxing your shoulders over the time and repetitively, like in overhead movements, in contact sports are also very, and shoulder injuries are also due to contact injuries. A lot of time they are very common due to this. So the acute injuries causes trauma, twisting and falling. So and the chronic one which take long time, injuries develop due to overuse, wear and tear and degeneration of ligaments again and tendons over time. So now I'll be discussing three key types of shoulder injuries which we see in the sports. So the most common shoulder injuries now on your screens on the next slide. So the three most common injuries are, the first one is your slap tear. So basically slap tear is Superior labrum from anterior to posterior. Slap. This is ligament basically. And this is the diagram where you can see how it happens. And this blue, you can see this is a slap. And tear in the slap can lead to this kind of injury. So this is the first type of common injury. Then second we have shoulder dislocation, which is also very common. And this is the example diagram for shoulder. You can see the dislocated humerus there. So your humerus get dislocated due to this kind of injury, and it is very forcefully done. And it usually most of the times this is due to contact injuries when opponent hits you, or sometimes you get fall in a game, a very bad fall, which has a lot of impact on your shoulder. That will lead to this kind of dislocation. Then third one is a rotator cuff injury, and here the cuff ligament get tear. So rotator cuff tear will also lead to a lot of problems. All these shoulder joint movements will don't allow you to play. It will stop your playing. You have to take proper treatment, only then you can return to play. And depending on the seriousness of the injury, you have to stay out of the game. Now I'll discuss all of these. Before moving further, next slide will make some point clear. So where I am locating different injuries. So in this case, you can say this is your humerus, this is your shoulder joint, and this is the labrum slap where the tear will happen. The first kind of injury, the blue shaped, basically. Okay, slap, we call it slap. This is basically cushion, which helps you to have some cushioning material between the bones. And here we have this ligament, rotator cuff, and if this whole bone get dislocated, we call it joint dislocation. Okay, so this is a rotor cuff injury. Here we have slap injury, and when this due to this problem in the ligaments or something, this bone gets dislocated, then it is shoulder dislocation. So these are three common injuries. Now I'll discuss each of them. So basically slap is basically a cartilage which provides cushion. So it is a tear to the that cushion cartilage is known as labrum that surrounds your shoulder socket. So a slap tears tend to develop over time from repetitive overhead motions like throwing a baseball, playing tennis, volleyball. Overhead motion जहाँ पे आपका shoulder आपके head से ऊपर से movement करता है, very fast movements like tennis में आप सर्विस करते हैं, ओवर थ्रो करते हैं balls को in the basketball and even in the baseball. So that kind of things lead to injury in this cartilage, which is known as slap. And again, feeling like pop out comes to the player, and pain occurs when certain movement like throwing a baseball, lifting an object overhead, this kind of injuries happens. And you can also have some clicking, locking sounds in your shoulder, sensations like that your shoulder has been locked because range of motion gets stopped, is prevented when this kind of injury happens. Now there are four types of subtypes of this particular injury depending on how it happened. One is type 1 slap, type 2 slap, type 3 slap, type 4 slap. Now the type 1 is due to aging. So it is nothing to do with the games. When type 1 slap tear is there, this kind of tear happens due to uh, fraying of the top of your labrum. The cartilage gets degraded with age, aging problem. If there, it is due to basically aging process. So this is nothing to do with the sports. Then other type 2, type 3 and type 4. Type 2 tear is the one where you will have maximum cases in the games of in the field of sports. It is more prevalent type. So in this injury, the labrum, the cartilage basically, and the bicep tendon are detached from the top of the glenoid. Glenoid is what? Your shoulder, where the stationary bone is known as glenoid, your shoulder girdle. So that there you can see this kind of problem. The labrum and bicep detach from the top of the glenoid. Type 3 slap consists of a bucket handle tear in your cartilage, and the bicep tendon remain intact in this case in the type 3. But on the other hand, when you go to type 4, again tear is in the labrum, but it also extends to the biceps depending upon the degree. So this is general morphological details, means what happens in these injuries, how they are classified. So basically they are classified on the basis of tear and what is the status of bicep tendon. Okay, so please ignore first one, that is due to aging. The second one is the most prevalent, and the other two are also there for the sports. So these are the different types of slap injuries. Slap injury is due to tear in the cartilage, and the cartilage is known as labrum. So always keep in this in mind. Second major injury is your shoulder dislocation. Now, this injury can happen if you are participating in contact sports, because shoulder dislocation always happen when opponent attacks you somehow or you fell in a very bad way. So common games where we can find it very commonly are football, hockey, and these are the one games which require repetitive movements. Like, okay, so shoulder instability happens when your ligaments, muscle, or tendons no longer secure your shoulder joint. So the impact is so high, your ligaments which are attaching your bones, your tendons which are attaching your muscle, they get damaged. So as a result, your shoulders, your humerus bone get dislocated from your stationary bone, and you will get shoulder dislocation, and it is severely painful. It is one of the most painful injury in the case of joint injuries in the sports, shoulder dislocation. So as a result, the round top part of your upper arm bone, that is humeral head, get dislocated, and socket remains there, and but it is a very painful thing, and it can stop your gaming for almost 6 to even 1 year even. And it is also of these locations are also of three types depending on the how your humerus bone has been dislocated. The first one is anterior dislocation. So when the humeral head moves towards the front of your body, and 90% of dislocated shoulders are of this type. This injury is caused by due to fall or overstretching of your arm, the anterior, or we can say that forward dislocation. Second one is posterior, backward dislocation, and it is not so common. It is just 4 to 5% are the chances are there. And last one is your inferior downward location dislocation, and this occur least often, accounting for only 0.5% of shoulder dislocations. So the 90% of dislocation are of forward, then comes the backward, and then comes this one, the downward dislocation, and result in downward movement of your humeral head bone. So this type of dislocation can be caused by weight or force being applied to the arm as it is extended away from the body. So a lot of weight force when you apply, then this kind of problem can happen. So these are the three common subtypes of shoulder dislocations in the sports. Now I'll talk about third injury, third joint injury in the shoulder joint. This is basically your ligament injury. So the first one was due to cartilage slap. Second one is due to complete dislocation of your humeral head bone. And the third one, this one is also very common. This is due to tear in your ligament. This is another injury commonly seen in the athletes. Again, participating in repetitive overhead sports, including swimming, tennis, and rotator cuff muscles extend the scapula and attach to the top of the humerus. So, the rotator cuff muscle, I have told you the red one in the previous picture, that get teared in this kind of injury. Normally, a cuff remains around the shoulders, ball and socket joint. So these are typically characterized by weakness in the shoulder, a reduced range of motion, stiffness. So it is also of two subtypes rotator cuff injury. So some of them are acute injuries which heal by themselves over time. Acute injuries are tears and strains to the that ligament, rotator cuff ligament, that result to one-time traumatic events such as holding out of the arm to break or fall. So, but these kind of acute injuries get okay after some time with some icing or alternate water treatment, so you can get rid of these. But chronic injuries are very problematic, and these are injuries that from overuse or some impact of your rotator cuff, and it is a combination of all of these. And This lead to long term rest. You will out of the game due to this kind of injury. So this is all about shoulder injuries, which you see commonly in your sports. Now I'll discuss some biomechanics to prevent these injuries in the next slide. So usually you work on shoulders on deltoids or other muscles which are there in your uh, shoulder, but most of the time the scapular stabilizers are often left untrained. So if you focus on these scapular stabilizers, then these are the muscles which will provide strength, stability to your shoulders. So always during your training involve these scapular stabilizers in and keep them in focus, that you have to train them to make your shoulders stronger, to strengthen your shoulders so that you can prevent at least the injuries due to wrong technique. And all three are there which are involved, which will provide strength. That is serratus anterior, upper middle, lower trapezius, and levator scapula. All these muscles help you to strengthen your shoulder. These muscle work synergistically with your deltoid muscles. You often work on deltoid muscle, and most of them sometimes these get left. So please try to focus on these stabilizer muscles also, as they work synergistically with your other muscles and strengthen your shoulders. So always strengthen your scapular stabilizers to prevent shoulder injuries due to wrong technique. So this will be lead to your improved performance also. When you strengthen your scapular stabilizers, you will see a great increase in performance if you are in the throwing games. You'll have a really strong throw in the cricket, like in the cricket, in the javelin throw. If you have good amount of strength in your scapular stabilizers, your throwing abilities will improve drastically. And secondly, it will help you to prevent injuries. So these are very important as far as shoulder joint is concerned. Now there is a particular kind of workout known as Blackburn's workout. It is a name given to this kind of workout, and this can help you to strengthen your scapular stabilizer in a very easy way, without any machine, without any gymming machine. You can stabilize, you can strengthen your these stabilizers, scapular stabilizers, and this video will show you how we can stabilize them. So basically you have to just, if you want to have full detail, you just type Blackburn workouts for shoulder strengthening, you will get this video full. And this is the way he's telling you have to just hold your shoulders in the different postures for 6 seconds, and do the 10 repetitions, and you will feel heat in your this area on your back. So that confirms that you are working good on these muscles and you are strengthening them. Do it frequently to strengthen your shoulders. And the workout is known as the Blackburn series of workouts to strengthen your the stabilizer muscles for the shoulders. So try to find out. If you want to link, I'll put the link in the WhatsApp group so that you can have full video of this guy. He's demonstrating in a very well way how to do these kind of workouts. Now coming to the last joint, which is very common, ankle joint injuries. So this I have already discussed in the strain energy chapter, where I have discussed that tendon, Achilles tendons. So again, I'll discuss all the common types of injuries which we have in the sports due to ankle joint. So ankle sprain are some of the most common sports injuries, and it is usually due to problem in the ligaments, tearing of the ligaments or over use of ligaments. And if there is sudden twist or roll to the ankle, ligaments on the sides get injured or teared, and this leads to your problems in your movement or at your ankle. And exercise training focusing on the balance and good muscle control is the way to prevent these kind of injuries. Proper balancing exercise you should do to make your this kind of joint more stable and strengthen it. And good muscle control, proper workout, stretching exercise should be there. And now I'll discuss different common types of. First one is your high ankle sprain. So you will have problem in this area if you have high ankle sprain, and this is due to lateral ligaments, injury on lateral ligaments. Here you can see, and the rotation of your rapid rotation of your foot, either on this way rotation out or inward rotation. This kind of sprain happens due to this kind of movements. Lower ligament, upper ligament, there is some problem or some tear in these ligaments, and you will have pain over this area. And this injury is known as high ankle sprain, and it is also very common. A high ankle sprain can tear the lower ligament. This can extend to even upper ligaments and ends at the ends of the bone. So this kind of movements, rotation movements, both outward rotation and inward rotation, rapid rotation, can lead to this kind of joint problem. So a pain above your ankle, in addition to the lateral side of the ankle, the injury often takes longer to heal. Okay, because if ligament is injured, you cannot move your foot, and surgery is really required. It goes by your normal icing or water contrasting treatments. With some time, it heals if the tear is not so serious. Second one is the most common is your Achilles tendon rupture, and let the slide change. Yeah, so you can see that this is the tendon, Achilles tendon, which joins your muscles to this your heel. This get break or tear down. So Achilles tendon connects your calf gastrocilius to your muscles of the heel, which is known as calcaneus. So the tendon which is connecting your calf muscles to your heel bone is known as Achilles tendon, and this is the one which is again there for your SSC. It is there for you to utilize it biomechanically for becoming more efficient. And if you not utilize it or overuse of it can lead to this kind of tears, and you'll have this Achilles tendon problem. So rupture of the Achilles tendon is one of the most common and painful injury in the sports due to this joint. And a non-contact mechanism usually causes a tear. So again, this is again the problem of wrong way of doing movements. Biomechanically incorrect movements will lead to this kind of rupture. Again, if you are doing heel striking, that is again problem. Wrong postures, bad landing techniques can lead to this kind of injury. Or overuse of tendon, you are doing more of hill running, so that could lead to this kind of problem in the tendon. And again, you will feel pop and sharp stabbing pain. Often surgery is required if you want to again get back to your game. Okay, so sometimes if it is not of serious, non-surgical treatment can get the tendon to heal, but you cannot return to game. If you are an athlete and you have this injury, then you have to get the surgery done. And these are some of the causes of excessive hill running or speed work, stiff running shoes you are wearing, that and you are making rapid twist, and that can lead to this problem. And third, I have already discussed overpronation. If you overpronate your foot by your habit or somehow, then you are also susceptible to this kind of injury in the future. So stop overpronation and check it with your, there are many simple methods I have told you. Just wet your feet and see the impact, the how your feet come on the ground. You will get to know. This test is very simple. I have already discussed in the last class. Now, the biomechanics to prevent ankle injuries. So, what could you can do biomechanically to prevent these injuries? So, the first one is improve your balance by practicing balance on one foot. So, these kind of exercises, balancing exercise, can help you to strengthen your ankle joint and can prevent these kind of injuries. Second, strengthen your hips, glutes, and quads, your trunk and your basically hips and quads and your trunk muscles too. Because if you strengthen these help to stabilize you. better way. These will improve in your balance, and when you have good balance, then definitely you can save your ankle joint. Third one, improve ankle joint strength by single length strengthening exercises like squats, lunges, dips, rubber band strengthening workouts. These kind of workouts will help you to prevent ankle injuries. And don't hesitate, use brace or tape if you have some problem to prevent these kind of serious injuries. Okay, prevention is better than cure always. So don't hesitate. If you are advised to use brace or tape, then use it so that you prevent your long-term injury. So that's it all about common sports injuries in the joints we have, and proper treatments which we can follow biomechanically to prevent them. So hope you liked the lecture. Please share your experience, and if you have any question you can ask me in the WhatsApp also here also. Thank you very much. Welcome all. Hope you enjoyed the lecture. It is very useful because injuries for athletes are very problematic. So try to follow these steps to prevent injuries. And Narendra, you are swimmer, and in swimmers, a lot of shoulder injuries are there. So try to follow strengthening your shoulders to prevent these kind of injuries. Welcome, Neeta. Thank you very much. Stay safe and all the best. Thank you. See you in next class.